Yeah, no problem, dude. And we are live. What's up, guys? So we're starting on a little bit of a different time zone today, but that's okay. We got Tripp Advice in the house. This is someone who I want to get on for quite a while. I think you have probably one of the most popular dating advice channels on YouTube, right? Or is that?
I think so. I don't pay attention to all my I don't know, my colleagues, so to speak. I know that there's a lot of people though who have started and have just been growing and huge, have gotten huge. And I've even been paying attention to you and your stuff, but yeah, I don't know. It's been going well for the past 9 years I've been doing it. So
What made you so you started the channel, you said 9 years ago?
Actually, yeah, the channel started 9 years ago, but Tripp Advice started 10 years ago. So
And what made you kind of get into all this?
Well, the long story short is I was a guy who was just like anyone else who's watching this. So I was searching dating advice back in 2006, 2007, even 2008. And I was just like a shy guy getting friend zoned all the time, did not know how to talk to girls, did not know what flirting was like, did not know how to be assertive, didn't understand anything about masculinity. So I had to go through my own boot camp, so to speak, to be able to get to the point where I understood what women wanted and how to be able to date the kinds of women that I wanted to. So that was, so back in like 2007, 2008, I would go out and practice talking to women. Online dating was just getting popular, but there weren't any apps at the time. So it's like all you could do was approach, or you could meet women online, but I had no system for that. So I had no idea how to get good with girls online or get the kinds of girls I wanted to online. So I focused mostly on just meeting women out and about and getting dates that way. And so over the course of a few months to about a year after just practicing, going out and approaching, working with other coaches, studying pickup material, things like that, I was able to get to the point where I started to get good. And then I was so passionate about my journey and what I went through. And I thought, you know what? I bet you I could teach this in a better way than the way that I learned it. So then that's when I started to teach it over a podcast that I did back in 2009, which doesn't exist anymore. I have a new podcast. And that was when I started giving dating advice. And then it just took off from there. So that was 2009. Then 2011 was when I officially started Tripp Advice as an actual company and quit my job just to help guys and do this.
And what are some of the big things that you've observed? I mean, I know that I'm sure there's a lot, but what are like the biggest takeaways that you have for guys? Like, why are guys still sucking with women?
Why are they still sucking with women?
Yeah,
well,
I'm sure
it's a still thing. I think that like guys have always been sucking with women. I think it's just every day there's a new guy who realizes he sucks with women. So are you saying why do guys in general?
Well, I guess my question
trouble?
would be like, there's now so much free content. Like we have my channel, your channel. There's so much content, but there's still a lot of guys who watch our, who watch our channel who are still having a hard time. I'm not going to say the word suck, but they are sucking with women. Let's not be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, yeah, and I don't really know your history, but I was too, right? I was.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just almost lended the question to the answer by what you were saying there. Is I think that a lot of guys are not putting themselves out there, and I think that they're probably just watching content and not going and actually implementing anything that they might be watching. I also think, and this is of no fault of guys' own, is there's so much information out there. I mean, I haven't even counted recently, but I'm probably close to 1,000 videos. That's insane. That's a lot of information. And you probably have hundreds of videos, and then that's just you and me combined and all the other people. And then I have a podcast, and there's other podcasts, and there's blogs. It's like, and you probably teach things in a way that I would teach it differently. So you're hearing one thing from Tripp and one thing from Alex and one thing from whoever. And it's like, what's right? What do you do? And then it's paralysis by analysis, or what analysis paralysis, right? So it's like, you're just stuck with all this information. And no wonder it's hard for guys to go out there and implement it. And the thing is, it's something I might say versus what someone else might say. We might both be right. There's not necessarily one way to do things. Right. I mean, maybe some general concepts there are, but There's just multiple ways to skin a cat. So I think guys
probably
get stuck.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, I think that's a big part of the problem is here we are making more content, adding to the problem.
Exactly. Here's more. We'll give more tips and
but the way I see it is kind of the way I justify it is that like not every video needs to. I feel like between my product, between my free content, the guys already have more than enough information to crush it online. This is more, I feel like, for like inspiration and like motivation. Like,
sure.
You know, like I already know all I need to know about fitness and working out. I don't need more fitness theory, but sometimes I enjoy watching like Arnold Schwarzenegger, motivational videos. It's more just for like, it's partial entertainment, partial motivation.
Yeah, entertainment. Yeah. It's funny that you said that. I'm actually reading the 700-page Arnold Schwarzenegger autobiography. I'm reading it right now.
Total Recall.
Total Recall. Yeah,
dude, that's a great book. I've read it 3-4 times. One of my
3 or 4 times. Wow,
3-4 times. One of my favorite books of all time.
I'm like 25% in. It's great.
Yeah, I've recommended this book dozens and dozens of times. Everyone who asks me for book recommendations is at the top of the list.
Wow, great. It's funny too because I just bought it in the past couple of weeks, and I don't remember where I even heard it from. I don't remember who told me about it, but it landed on my nightstand, and here we are, and it's a great book. But anyway.
I guess my next question would be, so what was like the progression of your game? Because I know you're in a relationship now. What was how did that come about?
What do you mean be more specific?
Like, how did you? So you said you were struggling to like learn pickup in 2010, whatever. Then you go out, you start practicing, you start making videos, and then what was the progression to you getting into a relationship?
Got it. So, well, I've been in and out of multiple relationships. So one of the things is what I didn't know at the time was I definitely wanted to be in a relationship ultimately, and I wanted to get married and have kids ultimately. I'm not married and don't have kids right now, but that was something at that point far down the line. But what ended up happening was I started to get good. And when I say good, I would be able to get dates. Well, first, it was just like getting dates with women that I would just be able to talk to and like strike up conversation with that I wasn't introduced to through a social circle, right? So that was kind of like step one as I look back at this. So I started to get good in that sense. And then I was able to get dates with women who I found myself even more attracted to, right? So ones where I would actually want to be going on dates with or more excited to. And then I would get into a relationship with one that I found like, wow, this is actually a really, good woman. This is like back now in 2000 and I'd say 2010, 2011, like right before I actually started Tripp Advice. Because I was, before Tripp Advice started, learning all this and trying to figure it all out for myself. And then I've been in a few different relationships over the course of the decade and just kind of in and out. And now in another relationship, which is we're like 2.5 years in. So I don't know. Does that answer your question? I mean, that's just kind of the history of how it went. And then like as I'd be getting into this relationships, I'd learn more about relationships and even learn more about women. It's like when you're spending a lot of time with a woman, you just learn so much more. So I was learning more there, learning about relationships. And then, of course, the relationship would end and go back to dating, whether it be. And then I would go into online dating apps and do some online dating apps and then do more approaching and just continue my education as time went on in both fields of dating and getting into a relationship.
I guess let me rephrase my question. What would you say are the keys to having a successful relationship?
The keys to having a successful relationship. Well, the first thing is you need to make sure you're with a woman that you actually want to be with. Okay. So a lot of guys, I think, make that first mistake. And I'll even admit, I think I made that mistake when I got into a relationship 10 years ago after I was, going out and doing approaching and doing game and all that stuff. Is I found someone, but I didn't really know or understand the process of how do you find someone that's a good match. Right. So I think one of the first things is you have to make sure that you're with someone that you actually believe is going to be a match for you. And it's someone that you're looking for, and also try to understand red flags. It's like, if you don't have that foundation in place, there's no relationship skills. Like there's nothing else that's going to do anything for you. And the relationship is ultimately doomed to fail.
That's very true.
You
What
know,
would you say those red flags are?
red flags. One would be if they are excessive partiers, anything with weekend warriors, drinking, drugs, bad relationship with their parents.
Okay.
Okay, especially their dad. So finding out, do they respect their parents? Do they have a relationship with them? Do they not? Do they ever talk to them? Um, Other red flags are just generally seeing how they live their life. So I remember there was this one girl that I dated and super attracted to her, super into her. And I remember going to her place and her bedroom was a complete shit show. And I looked over it for a little bit, like the fact, like, okay, her room's a mess, whatever. I'm not just talking like there's a couple things on the floor. I'm talking like there's like a wine stain in the corner. Her bed wasn't put together yet, so her mattress was shoved in the corner with like the sheets like kind of ripped off, so you could see the mattress.
Sounds like my room, to be honest.
Very good. And it just was, and it's interesting. So I saw that, and to me, now I look back in retrospect and realize that was a red flag. But at that point, I was like, oh, whatever. She's like hot. She's fun to hang out with. And then we'd keep on dating. And I realized like this was this was something that was part of her whole life. Like this, it was an example of her whole life being a mess, right? Like she was a mess in so many different areas. And then I found out months later that she had a mental illness. It was just a disaster. She had, what's funny, she actually had OCD, funny enough. But yeah, it's just like those things like that, like seeing like how is this woman living her life? Like, is she organized? Does she cook her own meals? Does she know how to take care of herself? Like those things are actually very important because you don't want someone who doesn't know how to do that in a relationship.
I'm trying to think what my red flags are because I've actually, contrary to popular belief, I have been in a few relationships. I would say here are my red flags. One, lying. If I ever catch her lying about anything, that's a big red flag. So I think honesty is really big for me. Two, I want her to have some kind of a career. So if she's a sugar baby, Instagram model, whatever, anything that's not like a real job, she doesn't have to make a lot of money. I don't give a shit about that. I just want her to be like doing something that.
Right. Like, you know, not a waitress or a bartender. I don't know. I just, you're doing that as a job. And by the way, not as a way of paying like your bills to eventually be a doctor or something bigger. I mean,
Right,
I
don't give a shit.
You're just a bartender and that's it. I don't know. It doesn't seem like you got much going on, but I agree. It's the thing is it's an interesting balance. Is I personally, and I would say this to guys too, is like, I don't know. And you just kind of said like, you don't care if a woman has a high degree or anything like that, or like is making a lot of money. It's like, I wouldn't want that either. I don't want someone who's passionate. I don't want a woman whose passion is to make money. Like, that's just not what I want. Like, I figure in a relationship, like I'll handle that part and then she can help with other things. A little bit old school, but that's just not what I'm interested in. You know, I don't want her passion to be something where she's having to make a lot of money that takes her away from helping with family and things like that.
I personally don't care about that as much. For me, the big thing is I just want her to have some kind of a passion, like something that she does. Like I just wouldn't, for me, like a girl who just like spends all day on Instagram or whatever, like she just doesn't have a job. That to me is that's a red flag. Not the kind of girl I would date. Honestly, what else we got? I'm trying to think.
When did you get started? I don't know much about you. I know about your YouTube channel. I've seen some videos, but how old are you?
I'm 31 right now.
31. Okay. And then, so what was give me your like 1 minute background story.
I lost my virginity when I was 19. So definitely a late bloomer. I struggled all through my early 20s and college years. Read the book The Game when I was 22. That kind of blew my mind. I remember.
What year was that?
That would have been 2012, I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah, 2012. 2013, I moved to LA, and basically all I did was just do cold approach pickup, like 2013 to 2015, I want to say. Okay. Just did a shitload of cold approach. Definitely got better. Used to follow RSD heavily in those days. 2015, kind of started developing more of my own style because started realizing some things work, some things don't. Also started.
What's your own style compared to like RSD guys or anyone else?
I would say that that's a good question. I would say a big part of my style is just efficiency. Like, how can I make this as efficient as possible? Like, going out all night and just doing a bunch of random approaches. Probably not the most efficient thing you can do, right? Like, how can I be more efficient? Oh, I know if I get on Tinder and I get like a very sexual profile, every chick who I match with is going to be more or less DTF, right? That's going to be a little bit more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
Cold approach, you can make it a lot more efficient too. It's just about like where you go out. Okay. I find clubs are generally very inefficient. Like, what's a more efficient? Well, maybe more chill lounge. And then you also, instead of just approaching everybody, you look for IOIs, like you look for indicators of interest. Okay. If a girl looks at you for a few seconds, you just make eye contact with her. That's going to be much higher probability. So yeah, I would say a lot of it was efficiency. I realized that, if I like, got good fashion, got my facial hair, my hairstyle on point, went to the gym, I could get with more girls.
It's interesting. I like that. I like this kind of package. You're the way you're packaging this, like efficiency. It's like that's a new way to think about this. It's like you're packaging it in this way. You're like, this is called efficiency. It's like, yeah, if you work on your grooming, like some people, like myself, would be like, yeah, you want to work on your style, your grooming, all these different areas. Really, it's like, yeah, that's going to make it more efficient because you're going to end up meeting more women that way. Another thing too, what you were saying, like making it more efficient with cold approach. I have guys ask me all the time, like, Tripp, where's the best place to meet women? And my answer is the best place to meet women is where they are. Right. So it's like, I used to, say things like, oh, you want to go to a yoga class, beautiful women there. That's not very efficient though. It's like, how many approaches are you going to get done in that? Maybe one. Also, it's like, if you're a beginner, that's very hard because that's a really difficult approach to just start talking to someone, inside of a class, whatever. That's not very efficient. So the most efficient way, or the best place to meet women, I would say, is go to where they are congregating. That's why you want to go to bars. You want to go to clubs. You want to go to downtown areas. You want to go to places where they are. So I saw someone commented and said something about Whole Foods. It's like that's not bad. There are definitely a lot of women there. But if you're going to Whole Foods at 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, I don't know. Probably not so efficient, right? Not going to be a lot of women there to approach.
When I lived in LA, I was known as the the cold approach guy, the local Whole Foods. So when I would walk in, all the guys behind the meat counter would just like nod at me and be like,
I'm gonna guess. Did you go to the one on Fairfax?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. As I tell everyone, that's the best Whole Foods in the country to approach women. Whole Foods on Fairfax in LA.
Good times. Okay, so to kind of redirect the conversation, so
yeah,
we're talking about being successful in a relationship. I guess my question would be, I know you have a lot of content on teaching guys how to be better in bed, right? What would you say are like if we condense all that content into let's just say 3 key points, like what can guys do to be better in bed?
Okay, so one thing is reciprocity. So a lot of guys are a little bit more selfish in bed and they think like, oh, I just want to get mine, right? That's like a big thing these days. Like guys are like, I just want to get mine. I don't care about her. Really, you're making your sexual experience a lot worse than it can be. So I say you start by thinking about her first, and then the law of reciprocity comes in where if you give, then the person feels like they have to give back. Okay, right. So when you're with a woman, don't think about what you're going to get. Focus on her and what she's feeling. Again, this doesn't mean that you leave yourself out. Okay, it's not just like we're not just doing things for her. Of course, you're doing all the rest of the things, like like you're going to end up having sex, right? So that's mutual. But maybe you want to go down on her. You want to make sure that. Plus, it's so much harder for a woman to have an orgasm. So if you can actually do that and give her an orgasm, and make sure you prioritize that, she is going to think that you are a person who's a giver, and she is going to want to give back, and you're going to have ultimately a better sexual experience.
You're speaking something that's considered blasphemy in the red pill community.
Blasphemy. The red pill guys, I'm sure they're watching now, would hate it.
Nah, red pill guys don't really like my channel.
We have something in common. So, I will say though, I do take some things from the red pill. I don't think it's 100% off, but
Yeah,
anyway.
I agree with that.
Okay, so another thing is I always say go slow. Like a lot of guys, for yourself and for her. So this is kind of mutual, right? It's like going slow is going to turn her on. So if you're just like going rough, and by the way, there's a time and place to have rough, quick sex, but especially for like the first time, going slow is going to turn her on more because women get turned on when tension is built, right?
Mhm.
It's not like a guy, like guys, we and I was like this for a long time. We don't understand how attraction works. So what we do is we think, oh, what we like as guys, women like too,
All
right?
right.
So that's where things end up falling apart. So in the sex thing, it's like, oh, I get turned on, I get a boner in 5 seconds, and like I'm turned on right away. Guys just assume like, oh, women are that way too. Whatever, they're not thinking about it. But really, it's the opposite. Women take a little bit more time to get turned on, but you can make that work in your benefit where if you go slow and you take time to turn her on, what's going to end up happening is it can help you with potentially going too fast and having premature ejaculation or any issues there, right? And also, it builds it up for you too. It makes it more fun for you too. So going slow is going to be one of the ways that you're going to be turning her on. And most guys don't do that. So, like, I'm giving you tips that most guys won't do. When most guys will go in there is thinking, okay, I'm just going to try to get mine, and then whatever. She doesn't reciprocate. And then most guys will go in there trying to like be all rough and fast, like just like porn, which is going to be leading me to my next tip. But they'll watch porn and they'll go really fast, and that's just not the way that you're going to turn a woman on.
Yeah, that's pretty true. I've had multiple women tell me I need to do more of these videos where I have a girl on the channel and have her break down from her perspective because those seem to be popular. But I've had multiple girls tell me that, like, yeah, this guy just jackhammered me for 10 minutes. I'm like, again, there's a time and place for that. Kind of like
Right.
you
And
said.
it's just like, I mean, I understand some guys might be like, well, I don't care about her and I never want to see her again. I just want like a one night stand. But still, it's like, don't you want that one night stand? Even if you're like completely using a girl, like, okay. But if, don't you want that to be the best experience possible? Do you really just want to jackhammer for 10 minutes and like leave? Don't you want it to be like an awesome, you know, the best sexual experience that you can have with that person? I don't know. I'd want that.
Some guys don't, but yeah, I
Some
get
guys
it.
don't. And then
Yeah.
this advice is not for them. Okay. So my third tip would be, so I guess related to porn. So it's a few things related to porn. One, don't only take 10% of cues from porn, meaning 90% of porn is fake. So you got to be very careful.
Mm.
It just doesn't look like that, and everything is fabricated to
Right.
the viewer. Some examples are like one of the reasons why guys have big dicks in porn is because so sex can be seen. Like if you don't see sex, if you just see two people rubbing each other, you're not going to get turned on, right? Like you get turned on when you see sex happening. That's why there's big penises in porn. That's one of the reasons. So anyways, the point being is like you're seeing all this stuff. It's like fake. It's not real life. So don't take cues from porn. However, I do say 90% because there's another 10% of porn that you might want to take from it. You might watch something in porn that's like kinky or fun that you might say, oh, wow, that looks fun. Like I want to try that. And you can find a woman who might be interested in trying whatever it may be, whatever you see on porn, something kinky. But again, that's just like take one thing at a time from there that you might want to try. But otherwise, the actual act of sex in porn does not look like it in real life. If you don't believe me, have sex in front of a mirror and you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll watch yourself have sex in a mirror and you'll be like, that doesn't look like porn. And if you try to make it look like that, the woman's going to feel very uncomfortable. It's going to be a very strange sexual experience. So I have a sub point to that too, since we're on the topic, is one of the reasons why you also don't want to watch a lot of porn is because you are going to desensitize yourself to an insane degree. I'm not an expert in this. There's actually some YouTube channels that talk about like no fap, no porn, all that stuff. I think it's fine to do that every once in a while. It's not going to be the end of the world. But because there's so much out there, guys get addicted to it and they get desensitized. And I can actually stop a guy from having the sexual experience they want in the bedroom because they're going to be disappointed maybe. Or it actually happens that they'll end up ejaculating maybe too fast because they might be used to masturbating for like 5-10 minutes and then like it's over with, and so you're training your body to finish very fast. There's just a lot of things that are just wrong with it. So you really, it's not just like a moderation thing, it's like a super moderation thing when watching that stuff. I don't think it's going to kill you if you watch it once in a while, but to be habitual with it can really be harmful for you and the real sexual activity that you probably want to have with a woman instead of looking at a screen.
Yeah, I think it's a slippery slope that it's easy to go down. Like, I think you got a real problem once you're paying for chicks Onlyfans, and you're like, when you got to the point where there's not enough free porn on the internet for you, and you have to pay for porn. Like, if you're in that category, you went down the slippery slope, and yeah, it's not going to be easy to get out of that for sure. Because
I just did a whole video on Onlyfans, by the way. I don't know if you watched it.
No,
but yeah, I did a whole video on it was just about how OnlyFans is so dangerous for guys. It's like, it's so bad because it can be, I mean, it's just like another version of porn that can be very addictive and just suck all your money away.
I think it's more addictive than regular porn because a lot of guys are, I've talked to some OnlyFans girls, and like they say that the big incentive is that the guys are, they get to chat with a girl. But in reality, what a lot of the popular girls are doing, they're outsourcing that to 10 Indian guys. So you think you're talking to a girl.
Oh my God, I never heard that one.
Yeah,
That's
amazing. You're talking to like some guy in India. yeah. And you're like, oh, baby. I can't wait to see.
Because you don't know what phone number you're texting. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So that's like the hustle.
You know what I have to say, like on the woman's side as a business, genius.
Yeah, for sure.
A genius, even though you're giving a false product, but very smart and just one more reason to not get involved in all that stuff. Terrible. It's like, do you remember cam girls? Do you know that whole concept?
Yeah.
So this is, and I was saying this in the video, this is like that on steroids. Plus, it's almost like more socially acceptable now. It just feels more socially acceptable because everyone knows what OnlyFans is. So it almost feels like it's more normal to do it, which is bad because it's making people do it more. Just disaster.
I think the pandemic has kind of made the problem worse. OnlyFans wasn't really a big thing before the pandemic. It was around, but it wasn't popular.
Yeah, because the strip clubs closed down, so all the strippers went to OnlyFans.
Yeah, well, I was never a big fan of strip clubs. I've been to a strip club maybe twice in my life. I've had so many of my friends, like on my birthdays, like, yo, man, we're gonna take you to a strip club. I'm like, that doesn't sound like a good time to me. Like, I don't really want to go to a strip club.
It doesn't.
And the argument I always made, I'm like, well, it's like this weird in between having sex and jerking off, but like you get the worst of both worlds because you don't get to come and you don't get to have sex. It's like, what's the point? Like, I just never saw the point of strip clubs. And to me, the guys who dropped like $1,000 at the strip club to me were like the biggest fucking losers ever. I'm like, why would I do that? I can either go out and pick up a girl, or if I wanted to, I can watch porn at home. But like either one of those is cheaper and more fulfilling for me, at least, than like just sitting there with blue balls for like 2 hours. So I never I had this friend in high school. I'm not gonna say his name, but he had this whole system down. He was like, all right, so this is what you do: you go to the strip club, you wear these like really loose sweatpants, you don't wear boxers. I was like, why? He's like, well, so that when the stripper rubs off on you and then you do 2 lap dances, you can come. I was like, what? Like, so you just come in your pants, dude? He's like, yeah, but then you go to the bathroom, you clean yourself off, and it's like totally worth it. And he had this whole like formula down. I'm like, dude, this just seems like way too elaborate for me. Like, I'd just rather try my luck at picking up girls,
right?
Than, like doing this like sweatpant jizz fucking operation that he had going on.
Right, just ridiculous.
Yeah, good times. But yeah, I mean, OnlyFans has become like the virtual strip club, and
it's just easier because you can just do it in the private of your own home, which is what makes it easy and addicting. And some girls are cleaning up, and then some girls are just making like a nice wage from just being at home and being an OnlyFans.
But I think the big draw is not so much sex. It's more of loneliness. I think a lot of guys are lonely. They don't have friends, or they have a lack of friends, at least where they are located. Their interactions are virtual. I've been so against this whole fucking like, let's just do a Zoom hangout. I'm like, no, let's do a real fucking hangout. I'm not going to do a Zoom. Like, this is retarded. So I've been like super anti that, like from the start. Like, I've done like 0 Zoom hangouts in the last year simply because like I'd rather just hang out with someone in real life. But anyway, so the point I'm trying to make is, I think a lot of guys are just very lonely, and to them, it's like they're like, going out. It's kind of hard with the pandemic. I don't know if I should. What about COVID? So this is just like a way of getting companionship for them. And it's like very sad because it's almost like dystopian future. Like, it's like where human interaction has been like replaced with this weird interaction where you think you're texting a hot chick from OnlyFans. In reality, you're texting some dude.
Like, it's like a form of robots. Like, it's not a robot in front of you, but it is a robot because you're on your phone and you're just like texting and looking at images, and you're not even texting the person. It's like it's almost robotic in another sense. Just terrible. We are in a
I always tell guys this. I think that, correct me, tell me if you agree with this, but I think that if you want to get better at pickup, or better just in general, you should have some friends, like a few friends. Like, to me, when guys are like, but who can I get to take my picture? I'm like, well, get one of your buddies. I don't really have any friends in my city. That to me is like, okay, that's the problem right there. We need to address that problem. You need to get some friends in your city. I know it can be kind of hard in 21, but like, I think every guy should have actual friends in their city that they can like actually have human interaction with. And if you don't,
because if you're not having interaction with anybody, then imagine how hard it's going to be when you're trying to interact with a woman, especially if you're fearful of women, or fear rejection, right? It's going to be that much harder when you're communicating with no one and you're on your phone all day. You're shooting yourself in the foot. I do agree with that. You do have to have a couple of friends. What I say though is, you don't need friends though to meet women. Like, you don't need wingmen.
No, you don't.
I actually think if you learn how to meet women without a wingman, you will become better at it. So you don't need someone to go out with. Plus, you just don't want to rely on that. Like, what if you want to go out and meet women and your friends are all busy? You're just not going to go. Like,
but it is a lot more fun to go out with friends, I think.
Well, of course. Yes. It's more fun, and it's just a lot scarier to go out without friends because you're like, who do I talk to? And it's like, you don't have any crutch.
Yeah. I mean, when I used to live in LA, like the 2013, 2014, Alex, back when I used to drink like heavily in those times. Like, I was never an alcoholic, but I used to heavily rely on alcohol for social interaction.
Of course we did. Yeah, we all did.
Yeah. And then I remember I used to, like, when I couldn't get like any wingman to go out with me, I would just go out by myself. I used to live in Koreatown because I didn't have money to afford living in like Hollywood in those times, like 2014. So I used to go out to like these weird Korean clubs and get into like the weirdest fucking experiences there. Like, have all these weird interactions because it's like a totally foreign world. Like, if you in Koreatown in LA, like, they have their own fucking culture. I remember one time.
Well, it's just like they have their own social circles. So you feel like an outsider, hardcore.
Oh, and they're very exclusive also. They don't really, on average, don't like white people, especially white guys. That's one thing.
Really?
Yeah, that's Korean guys really, on average, don't like white. They don't mind being friends with them, but if you start talking to their girls, they hate that. Because to them, like, that's like, it goes back to the whole thing, like, why, if you watch Japanese porn, it's always old Japanese men with young girls. Why is there never a white guy or a black guy or a brown guy having sex with a Japanese girl? And the answer to that is, like, the Japanese guys, like, they have a big insecurity about that, like, about a white guy stealing their women, right? So that you're never going to see that in their porn, right? Like, I had Sterling Cooper on. I actually hung out with him a week ago, and he was telling me, like, he can get into any porn industry because he's established, except the Japanese porn industry, because they don't want a fucking Australian guy fucking their woman. He's like, all the directors just won't work with me, even though I'm like pretty well established. So that's like a whole thing. I mean, I was gonna tell the story, but it's kind of long winded. So let's jump to some questions because I see a lot building up. Okay. Started in a sales job recently and noticed many techniques are related in game. What have been essential tips you've learned in game and applied to your business? That's a good question. Let me fix my camera first. So I actually did sales between 2015 and 2017, and that's when my game exploded. And there was a lot of concepts from sales that I applied to game. Actually, if you look at the my product, it's actually a lot of it is based around sales concepts. Like there's a very strong sales influence in especially my early work, but I think still to this day. I mean, I haven't done sales in 3 years, but so but now it's kind of a reverse question. What have I learned in game that has been applied to your business? I don't know. I mean, I think that there's this. All right, correct. Let me get your opinion on this, Tripp.
Sure.
Have you noticed that there's a lot of guys who are good at game and might be like decent coaches, but are horrible at business and customer service?
I don't know the inner workings of what people are making in their business, but it does appear that there are some guys out there who are very good at that. Like I've seen some YouTube channels and things like that where guys are very good at meeting women and have good advice, but it doesn't appear that they're doing well with their business.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't know. It's hard to say. Like I don't know the inner workings of what people are doing, but I also think that's because this industry is people get in and out really fast. You know, how long have you been doing this for? Like coaching?
3 years.
3 years. Yeah. So I would be surprised if you're going to be in it for another 3 to 4 years. And I'm not saying that because I think you're bad at what you do, but I think that people have a really good time coming into this industry and then they just want to do something else. Like they just get bored with it. They're like, oh, okay, cool. I did my thing here. It's kind of cool to be a dating coach and telling people you're a dating coach. And then they just like exit the industry because I don't know. They move another. I mean, almost everyone from the 2000 to 2009 era, like all those people, like they just are done. Like, you know, you sometimes see like mystery doing things, but other than that, and then even people who started, even when around I started, don't do it anymore. It's actually kind of funny. Like they're too cool for it. Like they just move on to other things or I don't know. But anyway, I don't know if that answers the question, but something I've noticed.
I mean, I'm going to be disappointed if I'm doing the same thing 3 years from now. I want to evolve PWF. I want to kind of take it more in I guess the closest thing to what I see PWF becoming in 3 years is like No Jumper channel, where they do like a lot of very interesting interviews, but it's also related to game and pickup and success. So I kind of want to do something like that.
Evolving is different, you know, but I'm talking about people jumping ship completely, you know. But yeah, I hope you are, man. I hope that this takes you really far and you stay in it. I honestly think it's like, I think it's sad. I'm like, oh, okay, that person's gone. See you later.
Yeah, I'll know I have made it when I have a full Vitaly ZTV style meltdown where I get high on shrooms and randomly assault a woman and then break my back skydiving.
Is he canceled now? Did he ever get canceled?
I don't know what's going on with that guy. I met him once actually. He seemed like at the time he seemed like a really cool guy, super chill. But yeah, I don't know. He got fucked up on shrooms. He assaulted some chick. There was like no motive to the crime. Then he like
you got to be a little crazy. Person.
When I can afford to be crazy, when I can afford to be crazy like that, you know, then I'll know I've made it. But anyway, I'm going to get back to this question. So, what are essential tips you've learned in game and apply to your business? I don't know if there has been too much that I've learned in game that apply to business. Like a big part
there's one. I got one. I think you'll agree with this too. I bet you can speak to it as well.
Yeah.
Qualifying. Yeah, like potential clients, like being really tough with who. Of course, you can just sell a product to anyone, but as a service, qualifying them to see if they're a good match to work with you. So I coach guys, and I have to make sure. So I guess it's like kind of a technique, but it is true in itself. Is like, I don't want to work with any guy. I want to work with a guy who I think is going to be a good fit, someone who I really think I can help. Same thing when you're meeting women is you want to qualify, right? So back to the very first thing I said on today's interview is like, you want to be meeting a woman who matches the things that you're looking for. So you want to question her. You want to ask her things about herself to make sure that she's a good fit. So you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. One thing it does when you're qualifying, you're showing that you're not desperate. So that person wants you more, but more importantly, you're finding someone that you actually want to either date or have as a client. So that's one that comes to mind.
No, I mean, there's definitely some truth to that. Like I've had, I remember when I first got into this, and I would get an email or a message about like the product, I would try to convince the person to buy it, and I would notice that like. And then eventually, as I got more sales coming in, I just didn't really give a shit anymore. I would just give very short and succinct answers. And I noticed that in cases like that, I actually got more sales. So there's like definitely a truth. Like someone's like, I don't know about buying your product, man. It's like blah, blah, blah. They give me a million objections. I would say, okay, it's cool, man. I guess it's not for you then. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So there's definitely like some funny psychology there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting when you kind of soft reject someone, and you push them away, then they're like, wait, maybe there's something there. They're not acting desperate to have me. What's going on? It raises your value is what it does.
Yeah. I would say that one of the biggest keys to business is provide value to your clients and to people. Don't be stingy on the value, and provide good customer service. And also I would say another big one is don't try to do everything yourself. Like outsource the things that you're not good at. I would say those are like for anyone who's thinking about starting the business, those are the big tips I would have for you. And
which makes it easy these days with the internet. So yeah, definitely outsource as fast as possible. I would agree with that. And focus only on like 1 or 2, 3 things the most in your business
that you're good at. Yeah.
At least work towards that. That's not really possible for guys who are just starting out. You have to do everything, but that is like should be a goal. I finally got to that point probably, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And that's being in business for, at that point, 7 years. So imagine how long it took. I wish it would have been faster, but that's just the way it went and how I learned about it.
Should take time, yeah. All right, we got a question directly for Avery. Hayden said that Tripp Advice doesn't provide any infield and therefore cannot be trusted. This was during a podcast with T. Can Tripp comment? So he wants to comment on, I guess, what he says is a lack of infield.
So he was on your channel?
Avery was on, about a year ago.
Interesting. I always say that try it out for yourself, right? It's like try the information for yourself. There's people out there who give tons of infield, and some of their advice is terrible. So I think it goes both ways. So if you don't trust it because I don't have tons and tons of infield footage, well, then you're probably not the one for me. Also, that's not really the vibe I'm going for. Like I'm not trying to come off as a pickup artist.
You're more going for like your more whole thing is like relationships, right?
Yeah, it just it's just not the type of content that I'm trying or want to produce. If you don't believe or think that my advice doesn't work because I don't have that, I don't know what to tell you. Like
I will comment on this. I will say there's a lot of because guys always say, why don't you? Because I don't have any infield either. I have a grand total of 0 infield, and the reason for that.
There you go. So I have two more than you, or I don't know how many.
There's a few reasons for that, and it is pretty risky to put infield on YouTube.
Well, that's another thing these days. Okay,
that's actually my biggest reason for not having infield.
Yeah. Now, I
lose my channel.
Yeah, people. There's channels who have gotten canceled because of that. The YouTube channels have been removed.
100%, dude. Bradicus, twice actually. What's it called? The Street Attraction guys. A bunch of guys have had their channels nuked.
Wait, so it's funny that he was talking shit because this is what he does on your podcast, but you don't have any infield. So how did you respond to that?
He wasn't really talking shit. I mean, this was a year ago. I think he was commenting on he was like, yeah. I think the point he was trying to make is that you can't trust a dating coach who doesn't have infield. I don't think he was like actually like shitting on you. I mean, I have to go back and watch that.
I just know that because I've seen other videos. He has 2 or 3 videos directly related to me and saying terrible things, which I think is hilarious. Just an interesting way to try to grow your business. But
yeah, Avery's whole thing, and I actually like Avery a lot, but Avery's whole thing is that he does a lot of these comparison videos. So that's his whole. That's
his niche.
Angle.
That's his niche.
Yeah. Touche. All right, let's move on. So, PWF, have you had any clients who went from getting no matches to getting lots of matches? Yes, and yes. But I'm going to preface this by saying it's not like I've had guys who were like total threes who went to getting lots of matches. So, okay, so I'm going to give a long-winded answer. So basically, you can increase your sexual market value by probably 2 points, the average guy. So if you're a 3, congratulations, you can become a 5. If you're a 5, you can become a 7. But if you're a 5, you're not going to become a 10. Now, the cool thing with pictures is you can make yourself.
I just want to interrupt real quick so I can understand. So you think the maximum amount you can go is 2 points?
Yes, if you
like doing everything you possibly can.
Unless we take fame and status into account. If we take fame and status,
Continue.
then you can go unlimited. But that's not practical for 99.9% of the male population. So just taking that aside, yeah, I would say 2 points. With fitness, fashion, the way you carry yourself, facial hair, all that stuff, low body fat, yeah, 2 points, I would say, is the average. But anyway, so the cool thing about pictures is that you can make yourself look a point better than you do in real life. So let's say you're a 5, you go up to a 7, you can make yourself look like an 8, right? So I have had guys who, for example, were, like let's say there were 6s, average looking guys, right? And they had pretty shitty pictures that made themselves look like 5s. So they were getting no matches. So then I had them fix up their hair, their facial hair, had them hit the gym for a few months. And then we got them pictures where they looked like a 7.5, 8. And they went from getting no matches to getting a lot of matches. Yeah, so I have had that. But you can't, I'm not going to take a guy who's like a gnome or something like that with like horribly distorted face. But again, that's like less than 1% of clients. But yeah, I mean, I would say like 99% of guys can succeed with online. It's just I'm not going to lie and say there's like 0.5% that are kind of fucked. And I feel bad for them. They just got the bad end of the genetic pool. But it's less than 1%, I think. So that's kind of a very long-winded answer to that question. Okay. How would you approach a girl at Whole Foods who's on their phone the entire time they're shopping and in line at checkout? What do you think, Tripp?
How would you approach a girl at Whole Foods who's on their phone the entire time they're shopping and in line at the checkout? I don't really love approaches that they're in the middle. So if they're at checkout, like you're not going to do that. So let's just take a few examples. If they're at checkout, approach after you check out, right? So do what you got to do. If you really want this girl real bad and you see her checking out, but you're in the same checkout line, okay, well, walk away, don't check out, and then wait for her to finish and then do an approach. So it's just a little bit smoother. I'm not trying to get guys to do the perfect approach because that doesn't exist, but you want to make it somewhat smooth. If they are on their phone or it depends. Like if they're just like in their headphones but they're not talking to anyone, I would just go up and you make like a motion to take out the headphones and then you start talking to them and do your approach. Or if they're on the phone, I don't know. I just don't bother. Like, I just think that's a waste of an approach. Like, what do you think? Do you like the idea of guys approaching girls who are on the phone, like talking to someone on the phone? Do you think they should bother with it?
Well, I think it's a low probability approach. I think you have nothing to lose. There's nothing
to lose, just low probability. Like,
yeah, it's a low probability. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, just really depends on how hot the girl is and my mood. Like, let's say we got like my perfect 10 and I'm in a social mood. I don't care how low the probability is. I'll just approach it, right? But like, again, there's just if the factors are met. But I know it's low probability, so I don't beat myself up if it doesn't go well. I've done some like really crazy approaches that are extremely low probability and they didn't go well and I was cool with it. Would I recommend that for a beginner? No, probably not. Like, especially if you're at a point where every time you fail, your ego takes a big hit and you feel like downtrodden, then no, I would not. So, how would I approach a girl who's at Whole Foods and she's on her phone the entire time? I might make a joke about it. Again, the headphones thing is huge because if she can't hear you, then like you say something and she's like, what? Like, you don't want that moment. So I would look for the headphones. Let's assume the headphones are not in. I might say something like, I might say something like surfing Tinder. Like, just look it over her and like, how's Tinder? Right? Like something like, she's like, no, I'm not on Tinder, right? I'm on blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, sure. And then from there we just transition. Like, I actually just want to meet you. I'm Alex. Something like that. So I probably would do something like kind of humorous, almost like kind of like a takeaway type of opener, get the conversation started, and then reposition myself and fully engage in the convo.
Love it, man. It's a good answer.
Thoughts? Okay, this is an interesting question. Thoughts on guys getting vasectomies and freezing their sperm? Is that being too paranoid? What do you think?
If you don't want kids, 100% get a vasectomy. 100%.
John's been telling me to get a vasectomy for ages. Honestly, I think I'm infertile.
Do you want kids?
Maybe in 10, 20 years, but as of now, no.
Dude, see, that to me is like, you just don't do it. Like, you don't want them. You would know by now. You're 31, and also you don't want to be an old dad. So if you're saying that, I would say this is what I say to guys: like, get a vasectomy. If you're 21, you're like, I don't know. Well, you're young. You don't know what's going on quite yet. But if you're much older and you're saying like, I'm not sure, that probably means no.
I would disagree with the old dad part simply because all the advances in medicine, like stem cells and human growth hormone, TRT, that what used to be like you can be 60 and feel like you're 40 and have the biological age of a 40-year-old.
But it's not ideal. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's so much more ideal if you do know you want kids to be a younger dad. Like we don't know what's going to happen with, I don't know, who knows? And who knows if you're going to be a person who's going to be looking into that and eating healthy and doing all the right things that's going to make you an energetic 60-year-old. You might not even have the money to do that. Who knows? So I think it just, if you know that you don't want kids, get a vasectomy. It's going to make your life easier. And if you do want kids, I would start that process sooner than later.
Just to kind of comment on that, I think that have you ever seen the movie Titanic?
Yes.
Do you know how, like, in that movie, this is part of Titanic that most people don't focus on, but like how there's like such a huge difference between the way the rich people are treated and the way the poor people are treated on like the classes. Like the rich people, they're like, it shows like the difference like between where Leo is and then like whatever Rose, I forget who plays her, but anyway. I do think that kind of the world is sort of moving in that direction. I think that there's such a huge difference in like the really rich people, they have a whole list of medical things that they have access to that the average person does not. And like all the good medical treatments are not covered by insurance. And I do think that like it is important, like the way I see life, it is very important to acquire resources, because the way I see it, I don't want to be in a situation 20 years from now where one of my family members who I care about is sick and needs a treatment that costs $1 million that the rich people can do. Because I think in 20 years, especially with gene therapy and all that stuff, like you're going to be able to solve pretty much any medical problem. It's just going to cost a shitload of fucking money. So I don't want to be in a situation where someone I'm close to has a severe medical issue, and because I didn't hustle, I can't afford it and I have to watch them die. So yeah, to me, like a big thing has always been just to acquire resources as rapidly as possible to try to hedge against future
money solves problems that not having money causes. I live by that.
But that's a whole different tangent. All right, so what's the best way to get over a strict traditional past where sex and monogamy growing up was put on a pedestal?
What's the best way to get over a strict traditional past where sex and monogamy growing up was put on a pedestal? I think you got to get your priorities straight, my friend. You got to figure out what it is that you actually want. I think a person who's asking that is torn. They're like in gray area. They're like, well, I don't know. Like, should I be monogamous or should I wait to have sex till marriage? Should I not? It's like, you got to figure out, pick one and then go for it and figure out what your values are. It's kind of a vague question, but
yeah, I mean, I would say that this is not a pleasant answer, but realize that unfortunately that you grew up with some very, very bullshit things. And I say that with love, but like, because I have clients who are like, yeah, I'm a virgin, but I don't know, I kind of want to wait till marriage. And I'm like, dude, that's a horrible idea.
They're confused. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, that's a horrible idea though. Like, that just makes no sense to me. Like, don't fucking do that, for the love of God. My cousin, actually, I'll tell a funny story. I think I've told this before. My cousin in Israel, because we're half Jewish, he went through like his phase when he was a teenager. He was like really rambunctious and would party a lot. I remember when he was 16, he came to visit me in America, and he was throwing up within an hour of arriving into my house from taking various drugs that my best friend gave him, which was probably a dumb idea. But anyway, so
if you're a guy who's asking this question, you probably want to have sex and you don't, and you want to have casual relationships. So to kind of add on to what you're saying here is that, yeah, like just probably go that route because you're probably headed that way anyways.
I mean, that's definitely true. But anyway, so my cousin, he decided when he was like around 18, 19 to repent and become super Orthodox Jewish. And then he meets a girl and he decides to get married within 2-3 months of meeting her. And like my whole family was like, yo, why are you getting married so fast? Like maybe you should like take things slow. And then his exact words were, well, I'm just really horny and I want to have sex. And we're like, that's not a good reason. Like, just he's like, we're like, just fucking have sex with her. And he's like, no, but you know, the whatever, the Torah forbids it. I don't know much about religion. But he's like, I don't know, that's against the rules. I can't do that. We're like, okay, this seems like a terrible idea. Gets married with her in March. He's already filing divorce papers in May. Like, I guess the sex wasn't that good. But we're like, Jesus fucking Christ, who could have seen this coming besides every fucking person in the world? So, yeah, that's my take on that. If you watch porn and when you will have sex for the first time, is the porn negative pecs? So will porn fuck you up? I mean, I watched porn from the age of 14 to 19. I didn't lose my virginity until I was 19. So, I mean, granted, I probably lasted 10 seconds the first time, but yeah, I mean, I don't
probably
know.
would anyways.
Yeah,
I mean, will it mess up the first time? I mean, I don't know. Like, the first time is already complicated, you know? Like, the first time is like there's a lot of things going on in your brain before you end up doing it for the first time. So I guess really my answer would be like, no, it's not, but that shouldn't be a reason to like be like, oh, well, he says first time is gonna be tough anyways. I'll just keep watching porn. Like, you're just gonna go into it thinking that it's gonna be like porn, and it's not.
I mean, chances are this guy's already watching porn. Like, don't beat yourself up. It's not like you've done some irreversible damage where, like, now you're fucked. You know, like, I watched porn for years, decades. You know, a lot of it, and you know, I turned out okay. So, yeah. I mean,
or did you?
Or did I? Yeah. I mean, that is a good question. I mean, I do have all kinds of. You know, it's funny. Me and what? Tripp, you there? We lost Tripp. Sheet. That was also a very climatic ending. Or did you? That's actually. That was a very climatic ending. Or did you? And then bam, the screen cuts off.
What just happened?
I don't know. It just cut off for some reason. But let's take like one or two more questions.
Cool.
I want to end off on like some good questions. Okay, this is an interesting one. How to bring up an open relationship in an attractive way. Do you ever tell your main girl about the other girls you're dating? What's your take on open relationships, Tripp? Let's start with that.
You could. My take is totally cool if you want that, but you cannot. It is extremely hard to go from I'm dating someone and I've never mentioned this at all to all of a sudden you're going to mention it. 9.9 times out of 10, it's just not going to work out because you did not set the expectations of the relationship from the beginning. So you want to prevent that. There's no way of being like, how do I do this now? It's just like, it's not going to happen. Like, you're just screwed. If you want an open relationship, you got to be clear from the get-go. And you got to be okay with the fact that if a woman is like, oh, you're seeing other people, like, well, I'm looking for something serious, then you just have to let her go. But you can find women who are just into casual relationships. That's fine. Or if you really want to have a relationship where you have like it's completely open where they can sleep with other guys and you can sleep with other girls, that has to be brought up from the beginning. Like, that has to be a person you're going to have to look for.
Yeah, I'm actually personally, I've had my first relationship ever became an open relationship, and I learned from that I personally don't believe open relationships are sustainable long term. So I like to either do casual, like where the girl's my booty call, or I like to do like a exclusive relationship. I don't really like to do open relationships. I just find that resentment and jealousy starts to sink in.
It's going to cause more drama.
Yeah, I just don't think they work, but. Yeah, that's just me. All right, so last question. What could be a good date idea during lockdown if you do date game? So straight to your place for a bottle of wine, I think. If she's not ready for that, then just coffee or something like that and go for a walk.
I mean, I completely agree. I have no other addition to that. It's like, yeah, just do that. Either get a coffee or bring her back to your place. Just hang out.
Yeah, just keep things as simple as possible. I try to avoid, my whole thing is don't add unnecessary complexity to situations because that often is actually counterproductive.
Efficiency,
indeed. All right, awesome, Tripp. So how can guys find your content? How can guys get in touch with you?
Yeah, just go to youtube.com/Tripp Advice. I'm sure you'll put a link below that they can click on. Tripp Advice is the YouTube channel. Lots of videos there. Check it out. If you like my stuff, there's lots of videos to watch, and you can learn everything about dating, sex, and relationships. So come check it out.
By the way, we got Kezia Noble, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got her coming on in 3 weeks.
Oh, nice. I did an interview with her. I have a video with her on my channel as well.
Yeah.
She'll have some interesting things to say.
Yeah. She seems like a lovely British woman.
She's you'll see. She's fun.
I'm excited. Awesome, bro. All right, man. Good chatting.
Cool, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. Next podcast, so we got Kezia Noble, we got Richard Cooper. We got some awesome videos coming out next week. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Till next time, guys.